young charger called Fernando Alonso has lit the Formula One fire in Spain. Barcelona's impressive Catalunya circuit has a six-figure sellout crowd. It is round 5 of F1 2004. Hello there, welcome to the paddock. Now, Alonso comes from Oviedo, that's a good 700 miles from here. But his fans carrying blue flags with that yellow cross of victory, they are here in their thousands. Alonso is just 22, he's a world champion in the making. The current title holder might be 35, but he is getting better and better. Michael Schumacher had suggested that Jenson Button could win a Grand Prix for the first time. But in qualifying, hampered by a swirling wind, Button's BAR slides off at Kampsa. His hopes of another pole disappear. But Button's teammate Takuma Sato has the session of his life. He'd been the quickest in morning practice. When it really matters, his Honda engine hits the top speed, 201 miles an hour. Sato starting third, the best ever by a Japanese driver. When Michael Schumacher appears, the wind drops and we witness another magical exhibition. The Ferrari goes quickest through every sector. It's an astonishing 7th pole position in Spain, the 59th of his career, as he chips away at Senna's record 65. Running last and following the clash at Imola, where Juan Pablo Montoya called Schumacher either blind or stupid, the Colombians are full half a second slower, but in position to renew hostilities. The BMW Williams is on the front row for the first time this season. So it's Michael Schumacher on pole for his 200th start, going for his 4th successive Spanish victory. Montoya hoping to win that sprint to the first corner. Sato also in the 1:15's third. Trulli ahead of Renault pal Alonso. Then Barrichello and Ralf Schumacher, out-qualified by teammate Montoya all year. Panis 7th, that's his best of the campaign in the improving Toyota. Alonso blown down to 8th. Webber's Jaguar and Coulthard's McLaren rounding up the top 10. Raikkonen's off the back row, just ahead of Button, a very disappointing 14th. Klein over a second slower than teammate Webber. But Pantano, he's nearly 3 seconds shy of Jordan colleague Nick Heidfeld, splitting the Minardis. Enjoy the best of the Spanish Grand Prix with Martin Brundle and James Allen.
Last car in place. The lights will go on. When they go off, we'll be racing in Spain and the duel will begin. Now! Montoya's not got a good start. Look at Trulli. Fantastic start. And he's going to go down the inside of Michael Schumacher, just like we thought he might do. And look at Sato as well. He too is going to pass the champion, is he? Not quite. Sato 3 then. Montoya's on the inside of Sato. Montoya's had a stinker of a start. And Rubens Barrichello has held on to 5th place, but Alonso has got himself up to 6th. But Jarno Trulli has used that Renault system and off he goes. He leads in Barcelona.
Yes, perfect start. Just kept it straight all the way down to the first corner. Michael had no chance there. It looked like Sato had a sniff too of picking up 2nd place. Schumacher just crowding him into the corner. No problems at all with that. But Michael will struggle to hang on to the Renault, I think, for the first few corners. And then he'll start applying the pressure. I think he'll be mighty relieved that it's a blue and yellow car in front of him and not Montoya, given all of the fuss they've had together. But truly, it'll be no walkover, but he'll be, I think Michael will still be pretty satisfied the way that all worked out.
It's nice to have a different leader in 2004, that's for sure. Trulli leads then, Schumacher 2nd, Sato is 3rd for BAR, Montoya is 4th. 5th is Barrichello, 6th Fernando Alonso, 7th is Olivier Panis, 8th David Coulthard. That's a good start from him from 10th on the grid. Dropping down to 9th is Ralf Schumacher, not a good start for him. Up to 10th is Kimi Raikkonen, so he too has made progress. And they come across the line now. Trulli has half a second lead over Schumacher.
And Jenson Button finished the first lap in 14th place, so didn't have a particularly good first lap. That's Coulthard under pressure from Ralf Schumacher for 8th and 9th. Trulli's lead was just half a second at the end of that first lap, and now you can see the Ferrari homing in and taking tighter lines, carrying more exit speed and really looking strong. Sato, though, hanging on to them.
Fastest man on the racetrack on this second lap is Juan Montoya, obviously a bit narked by the poor start that he got. He didn't really look in it at all, did he, off the start line? We'd seen in the Formula 3000 race yesterday that the guy starting from the dirty side of the track, the pit wall side, got better grip than the pole sitter, but today that didn't happen, although you'd have to say it did for Trulli.
Well, Trulli did well because Montoya was very slow way off the front row with him. There's a car at the back of the grid, didn't get away, but no contact of any kind. But Trulli just rocketed through the gap, and I think Sato was sensible not trying to brake too late in there, otherwise he could easily have run into the side of Michael Schumacher. So Schumacher was indeed a comfortable second going in there. Now the gap remains at half a second. Sato 1.2 back from Trulli in third place. Montoya fourth, Barrichello fifth, then Alonso, Panis, Coulthard eighth, Ralf Schumacher ninth, Raikkonen up to 10th from 15th on the grid. Button remains 14th. I expected him to be coming through a little bit faster than that, James.
Certainly did expect that indeed. The big winners and losers then off the start. Clearly Jarno Trulli up 3 places into the lead. Alonso up 2. Ralf Schumacher down 3 places from the start line, and Webber also down 3 places. David Coulthard making up 2. So critical, isn't it, Martin, to make some places up at the start. I told you before that the BAR team have set a target of 5th place today for Jenson Button. I think they were certainly considering he'd make up a few of those places at the start, but it didn't happen to him. I have to say also, I'm very impressed with the standard of driving. When you go and stand down at turn 1, considering how fast they're arriving there, it really is a pretty narrow piece of tarmac, and nobody hit each other. This is lap 7. We're expecting possibly Schumacher to come in the next 2 laps, other front runners as well, and then we'll find out exactly what Rubens Barrichello's strategy is. He's only 6.5 seconds behind the race leader at the moment. It's playing out quite nicely for him. Schumacher losing a bit of ground there, Martin.
Yeah, well, it's the slow corner aspect again. And Michael will be, I bet he's on the radio, I bet he's wondering, and that's why Ralf Schumacher did a slow lap, outbraked himself into turn 10, and they've been losing 3/4 of a second just scampering around the outside of there, and he fell back into the clutches of Raikkonen, who's 10th, and released Coulthard by 1.5 seconds now, who's in front of him in 8th. So good fights going on all the way through the field.
Well, you need about 22 seconds here to make a pit stop and then rejoin. And if Trulli and Michael Schumacher pit in the near future, that will put them in around about 14th place. But we're expecting quite a lot of people to be making pit stops around the same sort of time. So it's about to get very jumbled up here in Barcelona in the next couple of laps, I think. 59 to go of this 66th lap Spanish Grand Prix. Then 1 lap more than last year, for those of you with eagle eyes who remember they had 65 laps last year. That's because the track is a little bit shorter due to the changes they made into turn 10.
New fastest lap from Michael Schumacher on an 18.3, and first to pit then is Alonso from 6th place. So Renault with not a lot of fuel on board. You can assume Trulli will be in the next lap then. So Schumacher's now pumping in the hot lap. This is Michael Schumacher's moment of the race, where he's going to have to leapfrog Trulli, I think, if they're into the pit stop zones. Let's wait and see if I'm right on the Trulli issue. Alonso exits after a solid stop.
This is working out quite nicely for Barrichello if he is running a slightly longer first stint. There you can see the race leader feeds back in behind the Jordan. I think that was Fisichella. He's fed in behind Fisichella, has he?
Yeah, it's
Sorry, not Fisichella, I beg your pardon, Heidfeld.
Yep, it's Alonso, of course. So Trulli still out on track. Michael Schumacher looking ever closer, and last time around he just got into his slipstream down into turn 1. Trulli locking the brake in 10, then just got away with it, taking his foot off the pedal, and the cadence braking on the way in there, but just beginning to look a touch ragged. And this is Alonso then recovering after that pit stop.
Yes, that was Alonso, of course, I beg your pardon, not the race leader, and he dropped in 17th place between Pantano and Klian, but he's just past Pantano. So Alonso and Trulli, we believe, is coming to the pits. Michael Schumacher takes over the lead of the Spanish Grand Prix. How much longer can he stay out? And can he do enough to get ahead of Trulli through these pit stops? But Ted.
Montoya also in. He's come in very, very late. The mechanics have been out in the pit lane for quite a while. They're making an adjustment to the front wing because the tyres, the Michelin tyres, have been going off. There's a lot of brake dust coming off that right front. Now Kimi Raikkonen in.
Michael Schumacher will be the happiest man out there at the moment, not because he's leading, but because he's now established that the Renault was lighter than him and he was able to match its pace. So off goes Raikkonen, and then he was in a bit of a lonely 10th place. And Montoya's pitted, as Ted said. Michael Schumacher, they all said or suspected he might be very light, including myself, because of the incredible lap time he did for pole. But it just shows you he was just stunningly fast.
Well, it's interesting because I'm hearing that Shell have developed a fuel for this car, for this team, that is slightly lighter. It has the same power but it allows them an extra lap and a half at a lot of racetracks. So in other words, it's the same volume of fuel, it lets them go the distance, but it weighs less. And Schumacher's used it to good effect here. He comes in a lap later than Trulli, and we'll see whether or not he can get past. Sato, meanwhile, stays out.
Sato around again, and Michael Schumacher then put in the fastest first and second sectors on this lap, on the in-lap. That's critical. It's the in-lap, plus the pit stop, plus the out-lap that makes the difference. And, well, we'll find out how that works out. I suspect that might well put him ahead of Trulli.
Yeah, it certainly should do. It was a terrific lap. Takuma Sato then leads the Spanish Grand Prix. Where does he come back out? There's a Renault there, just in front of it.
Yeah, it's done the job. It was Michael's just so good at it. He knows when he's got to be absolutely on the ragged edge and pump those sectors in. Now, it's not just about laps now, it's about sectors that make the difference. As Coulthard departs the pit, did I see Ralf Schumacher in front of him? If so, that's a change of position.
Yeah, Ralf Schumacher has been in as well. Coulthard, Ralf Schumacher and Jenson Button made pit stops at the same time there on lap 11. This is Heidfeld just going round the Minardi of Zsolt Baumgartner, who got himself into trouble. That's 18th and 19th places. Those two are disputing. Meanwhile, Takuma Sato and Rubens Barrichello at the front. How much longer will Sato go for? In he comes. There's your answer.
Well, he led the Grand Prix, which is good news for him. And now then, Barrichello, of course, who's just pumped in a new fastest lap of the race. Barrichello was fueled more heavily than Michael Schumacher and leads the race and has not yet had to pit.
Now, the interesting thing is how many more laps can he do? I don't think Barrichello's going to be springing his trap at the first pit stop that he does. I think it'll be the second stop for these guys, where Barrichello will suddenly pop up in a very good position. There he is, your race leader here, 11 seconds ahead. As you can see, Montoya going down the inside of Massa. That's a pass for 7th place. Montoya having made his first stop of the afternoon. Massa has not yet pitted. Barrichello leads Michael Schumacher by 11 seconds. Schumacher is on a very aggressive race strategy. He pitted on lap 10. He's on a 3-stop strategy, but Barrichello looks like he's on a 2. He's carrying more fuel, and they are racing each other at the moment because they're on a completely different pattern.
We hear that Ferrari are getting ready to receive a car, which must be Rubens Barrichello, and he's in good shape, I'd say. He's 10 seconds in the lead, and you're right to say it's over 20-odd seconds, so it really, he's going to stop one less time than Michael. Michael's got some work to do this afternoon, and it'll be crucial just where Rubens feeds back into the field and how the traffic works for him. As he enters the pit lane now, it's a long run down to that speed line, so difficult to overshoot that. There it goes, and straight into the Ferrari pit, which is the first one in the lane, gives you a direct line in. Off come those tyres. It's the end of lap 18 rather, and they're looking quite shiny where they scrubbed, couldn't see with the sun glinting off, and away he goes. Was there a little delay there, James? We cut away. I just wondered if it was, yeah, of course, to stopper, he'd be in the pit. He needs about 9.5 seconds worth of fuel, yeah?
Yeah, 9.5 seconds worth of fuel, about 63 kilos of fuel then going into his car, and that'll take him through to around about lap 40, we estimate. Meanwhile, Schumacher will be coming in again, probably about 26 to 28 laps, lap 26 to 28, so that's where it's going to get very interesting. Schumacher basically needs to find about 24 seconds on the racetrack in order to make the extra stop he's going to need to do this afternoon. And he had a 10-second deficit to Barrichello when Barrichello made that stop. So we'll see how it shakes out when the two come through again and the computer writes itself. But that is Schumacher's quest here this afternoon. Barrichello then making his pit stop, giving the lead back to Michael Schumacher. Trulli, Sato and Fisichella making a pit stop as well. A lot of racing still to go here. There you can see Coulthard locking up as he tries to keep Button behind him. Those two clashed here last year, if you remember, put Coulthard out of the Grand Prix. A few cross words between two men who otherwise are very good friends. There's Zsolt Baumgartner. Looks like another retirement for him with the Minardi. That's his 3rd retirement of the season. Lap 20 of the 66-lap Spanish Grand Prix. Michael Schumacher on a quest to win the first 5 Grand Prix of the season. Only one man has ever done it before. That's Nigel Mansell back in 1992. But he's facing a stiff challenge here this afternoon from his own teammate, Rubens Barrichello, as we look at Zoltan Baumgartner in the Minardi, making his 3rd retirement of this 2004 season. At the moment, Schumacher then leading from Jarno Trulli in the Renault by 7 seconds. Rubens Barrichello is in 3rd place. He was 16 seconds behind his team leader at the end of the last lap, still waiting for him to come through. He's now 18 seconds behind. Schumacher is on a massive push at the moment. Sato is 4th, Alonso 5th. Montoya has had a slow pit stop and his pace is slow at the moment as well. Man who started 2nd on the grid is now 6th and going not very quickly. Ralf Schumacher, his colleague, teammate, is right behind him in 7th, and then Fisichella in 8th, making the most of that 2-stop Sauber strategy at the moment. Well, Juan Pablo Montoya, I mentioned, is in 6th place at the moment. Ted, have you got some news for us?
Yeah, Benito Williams, he did put on a lot of front flap, a lot of front downforce at that first pit stop, and I think that might have upset the handling. Also, his front right brake was fully on fire during just coming out of that pit stop, so I think he might have some braking problems in that Williams too.
That would be surprising, because this is not a heavy braking circuit. The big stops that there are around here are well spaced out with a long straight in between, so that's very surprising. They do tend to smoke a little bit. Just watching Alonso's car when we were on board, he does have some horrible understeer, compounded by the turbulent air coming off that BAR in front of him, but his car nowhere near as well set up as Jarno Trulli, who just pits from 2nd place. Trulli 11 seconds adrift of Michael Schumacher, and the first stopper in the first round of stops, and there he is, Trulli in the Renault, but going well, got a good pace.
Well, it indicates that they short-fueled him the first time round. They're going to try and keep him ahead of Michael Schumacher, because he came in just a lap earlier than Schumacher, but this is a very early 2nd stop for Trulli, so that gamble didn't pay off for the Renault team, and Trulli wasn't able to keep the pace up, or he matched the pace, let's say, of Michael Schumacher, which was absolutely stunning in that early part of around the pit stop. So that's what Renault were trying to do, and it didn't work for them, and Trulli is back out again. Into the pits comes the race leader, Michael Schumacher. 2nd scheduled stop, bang on target, lap 26, exactly as we thought it would be, and I'm sure another clockwork stop here, a little bit longer for Michael Schumacher, possibly a slightly longer stint then for him as he rejoins. And well, where will Rubens Barrichello be? Very, very close is my guess. Let's see, there he is. And Schumacher up to speed, doesn't have to cross the line. Barrichello can do nothing about him.
Well, normally I have to try and graphically explain this to you, what's going on when they're on different strategies, but now you can see exactly for yourself. Both those Ferrari drivers have to stop one more time. But Rubens is compromised now to a certain extent. He's going to be carrying at some point a significantly heavier fuel load than Michael. Alonso taking a rip-off, a piece of plastic off his visor, clean visor as he exits the pits, new tyres, some cool, fresh fuel, and he's not thrilling the Spanish crowds today as he was last year. Ralf Schumacher too leaves the pits. He was in 7th when he pitted.
So it was essential for Rubens Barrichello to keep the pace up just before Schumacher stopped there. It was essential for him to be in front of Schumacher when he made his 2nd stop. That's where I said he wanted to spring his trap. He hasn't been able to do it because he couldn't keep the pace up when he had a heavy car after his own stop. He now has Michael Schumacher on a new set of tyres, which are always an advantage here at Barcelona, and that really has been very bad news indeed for Rubens Barrichello. If he could have stayed in front of Michael, he would have nullified the advantage of Michael Schumacher's new tyres, and anything could have happened from there, but really you have to say Schumacher has driven amazingly well, considering he started behind Jarno Trulli and had to pace himself in the opening stint. Once again, the cards falling very much in Schumacher's favour. Ted is in the pits. Montoya comes in.
Montoya stops right in front of me. Do they readjust that front wing? Yes, they do. More Michelin tyres on. A bit of a check of the front wing. Now they let him away. It's a good stop. Let's see if his pace picks up.
Well, we were watching Takuma Sato while Montoya was making that stop. Sato also making his pit stop, 2nd of the day, 2nd of 3 for the BAR Honda driver, on target for his first podium in Formula 1. and the first podium for a Japanese driver since Aguri Suzuki way back in the early 1990s.
Coulthard pits at a sticky fuel nozzle last, and that's just to his right here, our left, and yeah, sticking again, look, and slow out, so a problem there with the refueling, and it's costing Coulthard dearly.
Well, there we are. We didn't see it when Sato emerged, but in fact he was behind Alonso, as you say, Martin. So whether it was a slightly slower pit stop than expected or Alonso had a very, very strong lap, but either way, Alonso ahead of Sato, and that's blown the Japanese driver's podium quest off course at the moment. Schumacher then 3.5 seconds clear of Rubens Barrichello. We're expecting Barrichello to make his second stop, not for another 10 laps or so. And that's going to be a very, very long 10 laps for Rubens Barrichello, staring at the back wing of his team leader, who can now control the pace of this Grand Prix. He leads Barrichello then 3.5. Trulli is third. Alonso fourth ahead of Sato, fifth. Fisichella is sixth. Montoya seventh. Raikkonen eighth in a points position once again for the McLaren driver. It would only be his second points finish of the year if he could stay there. Button's got himself up to ninth, but has now had to make his second stop of the afternoon, so that will drop him down. Coulthard and Massa, top 11.
Yeah, dark and difficult days really for McLaren and Williams in many respects, where that's Button's second stop of the afternoon. He was P12. He'd actually crept up to 10th with others having stopped, but you know, two teams that have pretty much dominated for 20-25 years until Ferrari got their act together. Button, does he get ahead of David Coulthard? Yes, he does. So that means he should then be somewhere near Raikkonen too.
Lap 33, the halfway stage of the Spanish Grand Prix at Barcelona. You're riding on board with Fernando Alonso, currently running in fourth place. His teammate Jarno Trulli is third, so two Renaults looking again to score some solid points. Second in the Constructors' Championship at the moment, but the two leaders, no question about that. Michael Schumacher and Rubens Barrichello, they're doing two different strategies. Schumacher's on a three-stopper, Barrichello's on a two. I don't know whether Barrichello's been able to do enough. Ted, what can you tell us?
I've got news from Ferrari. I think Michael Schumacher's got a problem. There's a lot of activity on the pit wall, and every time the #1 Ferrari comes past the pits, the engine is sounding very rough. So I think it's one of two things. Either that engine has got a developing problem, or it's a cracked exhaust. If it's only a cracked exhaust, he might get away with it. But if it's an engine, well, that would be very rare, but it could happen.
Yeah, it's a cracked exhaust, can overheat bodywork and other wiring and what have you around, depends exactly where it cracks. But they do have failures. You see them in testing having problems. It's just they never seem to happen. They obviously get all the right bits on for race afternoon. Barrichello 4.6 adrift now. They're lapping in the 18s. But the Renaults are still there in third and fourth, James. Alonso picking up pace as the Grand Prix goes on, and beginning to home in on Trulli. And now Button's been released. He is fast too, up into 10th place and catching 9th place Massa very quickly. Can't hear any signs of misfires or cracked exhaust from that on board of Michael's. You have to be careful on that, because sometimes you're hearing somebody else's car in these pictures.
Yeah, exactly. It's 0.3 of a second. He was slower than Rubens Barrichello on that last lap, which is not exactly a terminal sounding problem. He's lapping pretty solidly at the moment, is Michael Schumacher. There's Gianmaria Bruni. Looks like two Minardi retirements in this Grand Prix, and that's Nick Heidfeld, and that doesn't look too clever either. That looks like an engine problem, possibly in the Cosworth in the back of that Jordan.
You get a clear shot at listening at Michael Schumacher's car. There could well be a cracked exhaust. I think they'll be able to hear it on the pit wall better than we can from the TV screen when loads of cars going past the commentary box window. Yeah, that's not right. That's not as crisp as it should be. The Ferrari's got quite a harsh sound anyway, but I do think that's not sounding right, and a cracked exhaust could well be. Normally, that just means you lose some power because the system's not functioning properly. But as I said, it can blow a hot jet of air, of exhaust gases, onto wiring, onto all sorts of stuff underneath the engine cover.
Looking back then from Fisichella to Montoya, the battle for 6th and 7th places we were referring to. Is a cracked exhaust a progressive problem, Martin? Is that something that's going to get worse and worse over the next 30 laps? Is it going to
it could well do. Usually what happens is it cracks all the way around, and if it's a primary pipe, it comes all the way off. Ted is down at Ferrari. What can you tell us?
Ferrari do think it's a cracked exhaust as well. I've gone in there, they've had a look at the telemetry. The engine itself looks okay, but what they say is that he does have a problem. They do think it's a cracked exhaust, but they are controlling the situation, was the quote. Michael is playing around with things in the car, trying to, well, turn down the engine, not exacerbate that problem. But, well, I think it's going to get worse rather than better.
I'd be fascinated to know what they can do. He can change the settings to a certain extent. Maybe they'll richen the engine up, maybe they'll trying to... I really don't know what they could do to control a broken exhaust. I mean, it's very much a mechanical piece that's bolted onto the car. And as I say, as long as it's not burning something under there, he's going to be okay, I would suspect. Look at this. This is Michael Schumacher lining up the two McLarens to lap them. We're on lap 41. Such is the advantage of his car and his tyre package, I believe, at the moment, as the Sauber of Fisichella, who was running 7, stopped for his second and final time. First gear, it says. I always used to leave mine in first gear, otherwise you're always trying to clunk them in and keep the clutch down. A lot of the drivers do put them into neutral and then back to first. I always felt that was adding a risk that you didn't need. And he comes out, importantly, in front of Kimi Raikkonen and David Coulthard.
One of the guests here this weekend of the McLaren team has been Jeff Gordon, the multiple NASCAR champion. Having a look, he of course drove the Williams last year in a test at Indianapolis, swapped cars with Juan Pablo Montoya, and had a good time was had by all. Pretty impressive performance by him as Jarno Trulli pits from 3rd place. Looks pretty clean at the moment for the Renault driver. Quite a bit of fuel going in there, 9.2, quite a slow stop actually, but I think quite a bit of fuel going in there. And you can catch up the latest NASCAR action on Speed Sunday. Next Sunday, NASCAR, touring cars and Formula 3000. Join Matt Smith next Sunday afternoon to watch Speed Sunday. We'll also look back at this Spanish Grand Prix, and I look forward to the Blue Ribbon event, the Monaco Grand Prix in 2 weeks' time. Schumacher then closing in on David Coulthard, who's 2.5 seconds behind Kimi Raikkonen. Once again, the indignity of being lapped, as you said, Martin, for the McLaren team, as Alonso picks from 3rd place in the Renault.
Yeah, he's been running well. There goes the fuel. What a thump that was, wasn't it? That's such a heavy piece of kit. That's why 2 men are hanging on to this, 3 holding on to it now to make sure it comes cleanly out. That works well, doesn't it? It's a good system.
It certainly does. Little thank you from Alonso with his right hand as he drives out. And you see one of the mechanics pulling the fuel man off. You can see there he rejoins behind Juan Montoya. Alonso, though, has made his 3rd stop. Montoya has yet to make his 3rd, so that puts Alonso back into 6th place at the moment.
Ferrari getting ready, I would assume, for Barrichello's 2nd stop. And then we're going to see it. Here it is, Barrichello coming in. So, and then we're going to see a straight fight to the end when Michael's made his 3rd. They'll be even Stevens. Same fuel level, 1 set of tyres to the end of the race, and Barrichello underneath. There it is on your screen now. Yeah, they're very late with the tyres. What on earth's going on there? The wheels weren't ready when he got in. I think they just about got away with that.
Terribly unfortunate for Rubens.
He wasn't ready to go, and yeah, they were just cruised in late with the tyres. What's that all about?
Well, I wonder. That was Michael Schumacher, meanwhile, has done a 1:17.8, which is close to the fastest lap we've had so far here this afternoon. Out he comes then, Rubens Barrichello loses a place to Takuma Sato. It's all gone very pear-shaped for Rubens Barrichello. Ted, what can you tell us?
Well, that was just a straight mistake by the team. They were the guys in the pit box were gesturing, come on, get them out there. There must have been a mistake with whose tyres were whose. They were very slow getting them out of the blankets and just delivered them as Rubens was actually in the box. Still a mistake, very rare mistake by Ferrari. Montoya now stopping right in front of me. A little problem on the rear, but he gets away cleanly. McLaren are also ready.
But Ted, how can that happen? You tell us up in the commentary box that they're pitting for Rubens Barrichello anytime soon. We tell the viewers, how How on earth can the team not know that?
The only thing that I can assume is that they got mixed up between whose tyres were in which blankets. Maybe they brought Michael's tyres out first and then realised, hang on, these are the wrong blankets, these are the wrong tyres, because they certainly didn't have the right ones when Rubens came in.
Coulthard and Montoya both in the pits at the moment. I remember when Eddie Irvine was driving the second Ferrari. Do you recall that? The Nürburgring again in 1999. They had no tyres ready for him at all. You talked about it being a committee meeting to decide which tyres to stick onto the car. After that, they put a hard and fast system, which it doesn't allow for the mechanics to bring the wrong tyres out anymore. That system's been in place since 1999. It's not possible for that to happen at Ferrari anymore. I do not understand what happened there. Rubens Barrichello now falling 34 seconds then behind team leader Michael Schumacher. Before Rubens made his stop, he was 4.8 seconds behind his team leader, and they both had another stop to make. Rubens now on the new tyres. This is when they're at their fastest, and we'll see what kind of lap times he's able to do as the race leader comes in for what should be a fairly routine stop. Fuel goes in, he goes back out again, 8.3, serene progress. And Rubens Barrichello will not have the chance to attack him, as he would have had that not gone badly wrong for Ferrari with that stop. Ted.
Yeah, Ross Brawn taking a very, very close look. It looked like the left side of the exhaust system of Michael Schumacher's car. He seemed, well, vaguely satisfied with the situation. Not much they can do about it anyway. Send him on his way.
Yeah, they can hardly get in there with some gun gum, can they, and seal it up, or a bandage. But the Jaguar then of Klein off the track. He was running down in 15th as Sato pits.
You can see the Jaguar just pulling off the track there. So that's yet another retirement for the Jaguar team. Their third retirement of this season so far, as we ride on board with Michael Schumacher chasing Grand Prix win number 75 in his extraordinary career. If he does that, he'll have won as many as Jackie Stewart, Jim Clark and Nelson Piquet all put together. Three of the greatest drivers in the history of the sport. Kimi Räikkönen into the pits, was 9th. Also in the pits, Juan Montoya, who he's racing for position. Bit of a problem though. Montoya's got a problem too.
Problem with the front left wheel nut or spindle, cross-threaded, something like that. Is Montoya even sitting in the cockpit? Yes, he is. But the rear brake, the heat dissipates and soaks. Montoya now getting out of the car. This is the problem. It's there's so much temperature in the system. It's fine if you make a quick stop, but when you sit there, it just welds up and into the discs, the calipers, and sets fire to itself. And it's mostly the cooling ducts that are catching fire there.
So just the second retirement of the season then for the BMW Williams team. They've had good reliability, but not quite sure what the problem was. Williams boys desperately disappointed that Montoya is going to be leaving them next year to go to the McLaren team. They like him. They call him the monster, and he really does hustle their car around. News on Jenson Button. He is up into 8th place. Now Juan Montoya is talking to Louise.
Juan Pablo, I understand a catastrophic brake failure. When did it start causing you problems?
From about lap 3.
So you've had a tough day out there then?
Yeah, brake pedal was very long all day, and when I got to the first stop, I had nearly no brakes, and then they came back. And then when Fisichella pitted, I started pushing really hard and for the stop, and then we came out of the pits, there's nothing. You know, I was going straight to the end. I was just about to, I was doing everything with the engine, and they told me to come in. I came in quite slow and everything. When I pressed the brakes, there's nothing. I just went straight.
I'm surprised you're actually smiling about it, because really a podium was on the cards today, wasn't it?
I knew this race was going to be a nightmare. It's been every year very hard on the car and everything, and on balancing. And we did a good job yesterday putting the car in qualifying. Had a good start initially, and then everybody just out-dragged us.
Well, Jenson Button, I was just mentioning there before we threw down to Louise, up into 8th place. He's losing about a second to a second and a half a lap behind Felipe Massa in the Sauber. He's now got past him. He's in 8th place, and he's got some clear air before he goes to attack Giancarlo Fisichella, who's currently in 7th place. So Button was set the target of 5th today by the BAR team, starting 14th on the grid. He's worked his way up into 8th place, and he's got another 16 laps, Martin, in which to give us a bit of a grandstand finish.
Yep, and Alonso too is slowly moving in to the back of his teammate Trulli for third and fourth. Can he give us a showboat finish then for the Spaniards here? At the moment, he's got a lot of work to do. He'll have to pick his pace up even harder than he's going. Coulthard's in ahead of Raikkonen now. Raikkonen, we saw them changing, I think, the battery or some kind of electronic control unit on the side of his car in his pit stop. But they're back in 11th and 12th. Webber up to 10th now.
Just 10 laps to go here in Barcelona. Michael Schumacher now easing away slightly once again from teammate Rubens Barrichello. 10 seconds the margin at the front. Jarno Trulli is in third, but his teammate Fernando Alonso is closing him down. There is Alonso, spurred on by the 110,000 Spanish crowd here. Last year, he really chased Michael Schumacher hard, couldn't do anything about him though, and finished second, but it was a great drive by Alonso. And once again today, he's hard charging. Had a poor grid slot, but managed to put that behind him. Started 8th. Teammate Jarno Trulli led in the opening phase of the Grand Prix, but Michael Schumacher was able to leapfrog him in the first round of pit stops.
Ted has news on Ferrari.
Absolutely incredible how Michael Schumacher's been able to control this cracked exhaust, Martin. I've been into the Ferrari garage. The message coming over the radio from Ross Brawn to Michael is just keep low revs, keep it as low as possible, don't stress anything, and they should make it. But I tell you what, his performance hasn't dropped off at all, which is incredible.
We're following the two Renaults. You can see Alonso closing up more and more on the back of teammate Trulli. That's a podium sitting there right in front of him. Jarno Trulli lapping about 0.4 of a second a lap slower than his teammate Alonso, but one senses that he isn't going to give away that podium easily. It will be his first of the season, and very well deserved for Jarno Trulli. On the final lap of the Grand Prix then.
Schumacher 13 seconds ahead of Barrichello. Barrichello pretty much backed off at this stage. Truly a half a minute behind the leading Ferrari. Alonso just 2.3 adrift now in 4th place, still pushing as hard as he can go. Sato looking strong. Both BARs in the points with Button 8th. Ralf Schumacher, seen nothing of him really today, have we? But no, he's down there in 6th place. Obviously the brakes on his car are fine. That's really mystifying me why Montoya ran out of brakes. So unusual to see that here.
Yes, it's been a strange afternoon for Ralf Schumacher. Jenson Button, apparently we're being told, has been radioed to back off, to take it nice and easy, protect that 8th place. Felipe Massa is 11 seconds behind him. No danger of losing out to him. So Button hopefully will nurse it home for 8th place. And Michael Schumacher has time to take his hand off the wheel, to wave to the Spanish crowd here, to acknowledge their cheers. He's going to come through to collect his 5th win of the 2004 season, his 6th win in the Spanish Grand Prix, the track where he won his first ever race for Scuderia Ferrari. And would you believe it, it's win number 75 for Michael Schumacher. There is Rubens Barrichello. At the end of the day, he crosses the line 13 seconds behind his team leader, but he challenged him in the early part of the Grand Prix. A couple of question marks about what happened with his tyre supply at one of the pit stops. I'm sure Ferrari will have an inquest about that. That scuppered his race. And a formation finish for Renault. Trulli gets his podium, much deserved, and Fernando Alonso stops to acknowledge the Renault team hanging off the pit wall. There he is, big wave to the Spanish crowd. Fine result today for the Renault team.
He is the best and he's never driven better. Michael Schumacher, Formula One's magnificent matador, reigns again in Spain. We'll be back with Mark Blundell's verdict and the drivers give us their inside track. And you're back with us in sunny Spain, where Michael Schumacher's astonishing run continues. 5 wins out of 5, 50 points in the bag, this despite a dodgy exhaust on the Ferrari. A Ferrari 1-2 then, Schumacher and Barrichello. Trulli doing so well to get on the podium after that brilliant start. Alonso 4th in front of his adoring fans. Sato an excellent 5th for BAR. Ralf Schumacher 3 points in the Williams. Fisichella getting a couple for Sauber, and Jenson Button 1 for BAR. Let us talk first of all to the main man.
Congratulations. I'm sure you know you've equalled Nigel Mansell's record of a clean sweep of wins in the first 5 races. Some achievement.
It is certainly some achievement, but it's much more an achievement to crack another victory in. In a way, we did it today and have another one too. That's much more important.
Talking of cracks, you had that cracked exhaust. What was that like?
Yeah, very exhausting, because you sort of don't expect to finish. I mean, Ross came in the radio and said, well, we have that problem. It was very early in the race, and said, we'll don't know how long it lasts, keep going until, and we'll find out. And he wasn't very optimistic, neither was I, to make it home, and we did.
I really didn't think he would finish, because it happened quite soon into the race. We saw the readings going astray, and then we heard the noise, and then we saw the evidence of the second pit stop. So I am amazed that he did it, but Rubens drove a great race as well, so we kind of had an insurance policy there if it did go bang.
Yeah, it's a funny thing with the tyres in Rubens' stop. What happened there?
We cocked up. We were looking at something else, and we have a procedure, and we didn't follow it, so we need to have a little investigation.
I was actually a bit rude on the radio, because it upset me a little bit, and I asked them if they were slipping or something. But you know, it's part of motor racing. I'm not mad at them or something. It's just it happens, and it's something that it happens. That is all I can say.
It was weird. Did you think, where are my tyres? And then they suddenly appeared.
I mean, they come in. I mean, the lap is 1:20. They come in 1 minute 20 seconds before. So I was telling myself, where the hell were the mechanics at that time? You know, when they were told to bring the tires.
I was leading the race for the first part, and it was good because we were pulling away. This gave me a good gap, which I could then manage for the rest of the race. Unfortunately, on Barrichello, I couldn't do much. But anyway, it's a great result.
Are you a bit disappointed not to be up there on the podium in front of your home fans? Probably bit's an understatement, isn't it?
A little bit. You prefer to be in the podium, but I think they understood that I push always, every single lap, and you know, I was not in the podium, but my teammate was in the podium, and I think we had to be all happy.
It was a stunning drive by Jarno, wasn't it? I mean, I think he was definitely my man of the day.
Yeah, I think he's done a very, very good job, you know, but, you know, you never know when it happens. But Fernando as well, you know, Fernando was pushing all the time, sometimes too much, especially in the end. And I think so, you know, you had two guys racing together, it was fun, you know. Fun for the public, at least we give something.
Well, Jensen, how was it for you out there?
That's pretty tough, you know, I didn't get a very good start because I sort of fumbled on the clutch a bit when I was trying to let the clutch out, and didn't get a very good start. I ended up where I started, you know, 14th after lap 1. I was able to get past 2 people, but it's so difficult to overtake. You know, I really struggled with it, and it's the same for everyone, I think.
Did you have some fun out there at least? I mean, we saw you having a few battles with Jensen.
Oh, really? No, I was pretty slow out there, so you're not really battling in that situation. You're really, to be quite frank, you're holding people up. And you can see once Jensen got clear, he was much quicker.
And so off he goes, Michael Schumacher, the half century up. Barrichello now a clear second. Button third, just ahead of Alonso and Trulli, charging in those Renaults. Montoya 6th. Ralf Schumacher, his teammate, just behind him. Sato 8th in the BAR, good points for him. And David Coulthard 9th. Miserable time for McLaren, really. And in the constructors, Ferrari 40 points clear of Renault now. BAR third, Williams putting the pressure on them, and all in single figures, McLaren, Sauber and Jaguar. We all wondered about the start. We all wondered whether Juan Pablo Montoya would do something to Michael Schumacher after what happened to Imola, but Jarno Trulli was very much the man there.
He was the man, Jim. I have to say, it's probably one of the best starts I've seen in a long time. And Jarno just picked his way through the front row, led Schumacher into turn 1. It's going to boost his confidence for sure, but you know what we can see is that definitely Renault lead the field of these fast starting cars. Look at him, he's got an extreme amount of power down there in a very short space of time. He pulls out at least a car and a half length, just nips inside. Schumacher pulls over and it doesn't work. Fantastic.
Montoya really slowly away.
Montoya bogged down on the start, and that basically was the end of his race. I mean, crucified in terms of going into turn 1, never saw the battle with Schumacher, and the rest was just woes.
Not a great race this one for the British drivers, but David Coulthard, just like last year, a little bit interplay with Jenson Button.
Yeah, these guys, fantastic friends off the circuit, and it must have been quite tough to be competing against each other, but I'm sure they're going to enjoy chatting about it. Jensen really had the car underneath him. DC's got a solid performance in today, but McLaren are struggling, as we all know. But Jensen did really put something underneath the credentials, what he's been building up all season. He does know how to overtake cars. He came from 14th on the grid, pushed up into the top 8. He scored a point, some fantastic driving, and that's what BAR need. They need 2 strong guys to finish the season with.
A brave strategy from Rubens Barrichello in the Ferrari, 2 stopping when most others did 3.
Well, it's the only way you can compete with Michael Schumacher. We know that he really hasn't got the outright pace. Some problems in the pits there, which did actually kill Rubens Barrichello's race for him. But even so, you know, 2 stops, it was a brave decision. It nearly did come off. But once you're up against Schumacher in a car which is equally as good, it's going to be a tough call all day long. Rubens has really got to just concentrate on getting a bit more out of his car, but, you know, Michael was such a tough act.
We look for a Montoya-Michael Schumacher scrap. It never happened, and Juan Pablo, the Colombian, described his experience here as an absolute nightmare.
Well, the biggest issue for the Williams team, from the information we're getting back, is that they actually changed the brake ducting on the car to get less drag, so they made them smaller. That, in effect, increases the brake wear and the brake temperature. And as you see here on the VT here, we've got smoke coming out. The brakes are on fire. That's the end of Montoya's race, even to the point where he rolled down his front jackman because he had no brakes coming into the pits.
Where was the pivotal moment in this race from your point of view?
The pivotal moment was when Michael Schumacher came in for his first in-lap on the first pit stop. He poured out 2 fantastic sector times and just made that little edge there in breaking Rubens Barrichello's lead. From that point onwards, you know, nobody else could touch him. I mean, it was a situation what we've seen time and time again. The brilliance of Schumacher, Ferrari, tactical, wonderful.
Another doddle around the park, really, for him.
Unreal. I just hope and I pray that somebody will catch him up sooner rather than later.
Right, next stop for us is Monte Carlo. Terrific event, that one. As always, full coverage on ITV throughout the weekend in a couple of weeks. Qualifying live from 12:30 on the Saturday. We go live with our pre-race show from just after midday on the Sunday. You know, one British bookmaker has already paid out on Michael Schumacher, world champion 2004. You'd be a very brave punter to bet against the wheels, spinning his way again in Monte Carlo. Good night.